Good evening. I'd like to call to order the May 20th City Council meeting. Clerk Swope, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Councilmember Brown.
Present.
Councilmember Carter.
Here.
Councilmember Garza.
Here.
Councilmember Hussein.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson.
Present.
Councilmember Cost.
Here.
Councilmember Pelavanoglu.
Present.
Councilmember Spatafor. There are 8 members present, a quorum, and we are to the meditation and pledge of allegiance.
All right, thank you. Is there any council members at this time that would like to have somebody remembered? Councilman Cost.
Thank you, President Garza. I would just like to keep in our meditation and thoughts tonight the folks that were affected by that terrible accident out in Wacusta. I think there was some 13 victims with several dying, children and adults alike. So if we could keep them in our thoughts, I would appreciate it as they're going through their struggles right now, some of them fighting for their lives at Sparrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Cost. Do we have any other council members that would like someone to be remembered at this time? Okay, seeing none, we will rise for a moment of meditation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we do not have proceedings for approval tonight, so we are to special ceremonies and presentations. We have a tribute in recognition of the Stampede Youth Soccer Team.
All right, Councilman Jackson.
Come through the door. You guys can
Nice group.
stand right in front and look that way towards your parents. Stand in front.
Welcome,
Chester,
everyone.
Coach Will.
Welcome.
All right. Thank you, everyone. This is a very special resolution for a very special team. And I just want to read it and so everybody can understand how special this team is. Whereas the Stampede Youth Soccer Team competed in the Lansing Parks and Recreation 5 and 6-year-olds league this spring against other teams from around Lansing, and whereas many of the Stampede players, this is the first time playing organized soccer on a team. The players worked hard to improve their individual skills and abilities, worked as a team to overcome adversity during the season, and achieve a winning record. And whereas Ben, Brady, Kershawn, Elliot, Freya, Graceland, Isaiah, Josiah, Khalil, Kyrell, London M, London T, Milo, Noah, Phoenix, Raphael, Rocky, Terrell, and Juan demonstrated great sportsmanship at every game by playing hard during each game and congratulating the team afterwards. And whereas the City of Lansing City Council acknowledges that these players are the future of the city and supports the Stampede players' mental, physical, and emotional development through Lansing Parks and Recreation Athletics. Finally, be it resolved that the City of Lansing recognizes the Stampede players, coaches, and parents for an outstanding spring 2024 youth soccer team. I would move the resolution.
All right. We have a motion in place. All those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Congratulations.
And we are to comments by council members and the city clerk.
Any comments from council? Vice President Hussein.
Sure. The first thing is there is a Churchill Downs community meeting tomorrow, which is May 21st at 6:30 p.m. That's at the Elfrida Schmidt Southside Community Center at 5825 Wise Road. And I don't want to steal from Clerk Swope's thunder, but highly, highly encourage folks that are able to make it out to tomorrow's first Charter Election Commission meeting. That actually starts at 4:30 p.m. in these chambers. There will be a presentation by the Michigan Municipal League. They'll be going over charter commissions, parliamentary procedure, Open Meetings Act, things of that nature. My understanding, because we had Clerk Swope at our SWAG meeting this past Tuesday, that will take about 3 hours. Public comment will be post-presentation, but prior to any action by the actual commission. So I highly encourage folks, even that have to work through the 5 o'clock hour, to come on out and then participate in some of those deliberations. Incredibly, incredibly important. Again, they have about 2.5 years to do their work. Can bring up to 3 revisions to the electorate. And I mean, this is tantamount to a constitutional convention, so it's incredibly important, and we need folks involved. Also want to congratulate, speaking of Churchill Downs, want to congratulate them on a fantastic summer yard sale. They did have almost 30 different homes that were participating, residents that were participating. And so great job. I know folks were out. This was the first time they actually kind of paired it with 517 weekend. So it was a new approach, but it was well received, and lots of people made a lot of connections, which is fantastic. And then I want to announce Colonial Village's annual summer yard sale. That'll take place on June 7th, 8th, and 9th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you're not aware, boundaries very simple. You have Pleasant Grove to the west, you have Mount Hope to the north, you have South MLK, believe it or not, to the east, and you have West Holmes to the south. And then last one, Rejuvenating South Lansing, sorry. That is May 28th, 6:30 to 8 p.m., so that's actually next Tuesday. Highly, highly encourage folks to come out. This is Elfrida Schmidt Southside Community Center, again, 5825 Wise Road. Facilitators are former Councilwoman Carol Wood, as well as Jason Wilkes, who's kind of like a do-all kind of guy for South Lansing. In any event, they are actually going to have special guests, Judge Cynthia Ward and Ulysses Rosa from 54A District Court to actually speak about the eviction diversion initiative, some of the successes, some of the services that are provided. So that should be an incredible presentation. And then following that presentation, we always have what's called a power meeting, where we discuss things that are pertinent, critical, frankly, to South Lansing, and then also things that are important to the broader community. So highly encourage you to come out to the Rejuvenating South Lansing meeting, again, May 28th, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vice President Hussein. Do we have any additional comments from council? All right, seeing none, I do have a couple announcements. Thank you. We have the Team Up to Clean Up coming this Wednesday from 3 to 5 p.m., hosted by the South Lansing Business Association. They are looking for anybody interested to help spruce up South Lansing in their annual cleanup event they do. They will be beautifying 1/2 mile of Southeast Lansing, I-96, Cedar, Jolly, and Pennsylvania. They're meeting at St. Michael's Episcopal Church at 6500 Amwood Drive between Menards and Target. So once again, that is Wednesday, May 22nd, 2024, from 3 to 5 p.m. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to my members at Local 333, the Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union in South Lansing. They took it upon themselves, 6 years ago to take the old rotted North Cemetery archway and buy all new steel, fabricated it, and it was just re-resurrected this last week. Wednesday and Thursday afternoon, they spent time putting it all back together. It looks amazing. Back in 2017, I was approached by a gentleman by the name of Jim Curran. He is a Korean War veteran. He told me how important that North Cemetery archway was. I mean, it really touched me. I mean, there's over 100 veterans buried there, one from Colonel Mustard days. He has family members there. He will be buried there. And he just feels like the North Cemetery was kind of like the, how do you explain it? The, I don't know, the stepchild of cemeteries in Lansing. You know, he mentioned, you drive by Mount Hope, you drive by Evergreen, and you see how immaculate they are. And then the one in South Lansing that was annexed, I believe, in 1960 from Delhi Township. just doesn't get the same treatment. So we found it. I worked with Loretta Stanaway. She helped me find the archway, and then we took it to my union, ordered new steel, worked with Brett Kaczynski from Parks, and he just told us that if we're going to put this back up, we need to make it 2 feet taller because the equipment is a lot larger now. So we did that. We got the permit secured recently, and then we just had it reinstalled. So I'm super happy and proud to be a part of that, and that's about all I have to say. Councilman Carter?
Oh, I just wanted to remind, I'm not sure if Councilman Hussein's touched on it, but the Churchill Downs Community Association Summer Picnic is June 18th at 6:30 at Wainwright Park. So lots of individuals that will be there, including Board of Water and Light, Lansing Police Department, Lansing Fire Department, 911 City Clerk, and hopefully most of us will be able to attend. And there is also going to be a softball game for those who want to participate. So more information to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no additional comments, Clerk Swope.
Thank you, President Garza. Vice President Hussein stole my thunder. Again, the Charter Commission is meeting here tomorrow at 4:30, and he was correct. The ability to make public comment will be after the presentation, so folks getting out of work should be able to get here in time for that. I think before the next council meeting, absentee ballot applications for the August primary will be going out in the mail. So one election's over, the next is coming. No more specials. And with that, we are to community event announcements. If anyone in the audience has a community event, we'll give you 1 minute to tell us the details.
This Saturday kicks off Memorial Weekend, and the city services begin with a ceremony in the Little Arlington section of Evergreen Cemetery at noon. I understand the city's providing a wreath that will be presented. The Friends of Lansing's Historic Cemeteries is providing a wreath that we will be presenting as well, and we invite all of you to be there to honor our deceased soldiers and sailors who have provided the freedom that we so blatantly explore and often just don't appreciate, and all of our other deceased loved ones. So again, noon, Evergreen Cemetery, Little Arlington. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other community event announcements?
So, the newly reestablished Old Ever neighborhood, we're this close to actually finding a meeting location. One of the locations that was offered to us was 3200 South Cedar Street by the Lens, and I will consider accepting that invitation to host a meeting there. We're considering second Wednesday of each month, barring a few breaks, like for picnics or for Christmas or something. Also, we are this close to having a full slate of candidates. We just got to get one more for the 15th and possibly a few more for some of the others in case some of them might be in the wrong precincts, since we divide each of them by the election precincts, which are somewhat provided by the clerk's office. So, because at large is just not practical for our neighborhood, so that's all I need to say. So we're coming back.
Thank you. Other community events?
Good evening. My name is Guillermo Lopez, and I'm here to invite everyone to the Cristo Rey Fiesta that takes place every year on Memorial Weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Cristo Rey Church grounds, 201 West Miller Road. And if you want to see the schedule of events or the schedule for the fiesta, you can find it in Adelante magazine, which also has information about elections coming up. So if I may, I want to give you each a magazine so that you can have the schedule. And of course, you already know the time of the fiesta. Starts at 4 on Friday, at 11 on Saturday, and with the mass at 11 o'clock on Sunday, and which will then follow our salute to veterans which we've done that for the last three years. That's very special, so we invite every veteran and those that are serving and those from public service to come and public safety to come and be with us on those days. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other community events?
May 29th will be our next Lansing 360 stakeholders meeting. We are in the works of putting together a community meeting where we will actually invite the community to have a longer conversation. Our stakeholders meetings are only an hour long. If anybody's been to one, that's a lot of conversation of organizations that are doing gun violence prevention work, or those organizations who would like to be involved that don't know how to get involved. So that meeting is at noon on every other Wednesday. Our next one will be May 29th. And anybody from the public is also welcome to come to this meeting. Just know that the public comment or talking at the meeting is kind of limited given the nature of who we have speaking. Last week we had Chief Backus on, we had John Duane, Prosecuting Attorney's Office, as well as many others that spoke just on the nature of what's going on in the community. So that's every other Wednesday. Next one is May 29th. And again, we're in the process of working out the monthly meeting where we'll have for the community input. Thank you.
Thank you. Other community events?
Hello, Erica Lynn, and if you're interested in finding more information about those meetings that Mike was just talking about, you can visit www.lansingempowermentnetwork.org. But also, I wanted to tell everyone about the Village Lansing will be holding our 5th annual open house celebration. This is where we celebrate all of our Lansing School District graduates. So again, this is our 5th year in a row. We do that on the Capitol lawn, and that's for all 3 high schools. We are there all day, basically to coincide with their commencement ceremonies. We're out there with music, food, snacks, games, fun celebration, just a open house style celebration. If you are interested, we're planning that now. We do ask for a vendor type situation. So if you have information, resources, jobs, trainings, internships, anything that you think would be beneficial to a graduating high school senior trades, contact me because that means you can be a vendor there and you'll get to interact with a whole lot of graduating seniors. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, what was the date on that again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it.
Time ran out a lot quicker than I thought it should. That's going to be June 8th, the day of graduation.
Thank you.
So on the Capitol lawn. And www.thevillagelansing.org if you want more info.
Okay, other community events? All right, seeing none, we will move on to the registration deadline for public comment on legislative matters. So if you wish to address the council on items 3 through 18 on the agenda, and that does include the city budget, please jump up in the next 30 seconds and get with Tyron in the back to sign in on a blue sheet. And with that, we are to the mayor's comments.
Mayor Shore.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will try and do this quickly, but we have a ton going on. As the weather is nice and there's just a lot going on. So first I want to congratulate the folks at Sylvia's Sudsery right downtown. Danielle and her family have opened up a new soap and other things shop, so go check it out downtown. Thank you to Lake Trust, who has been extremely helpful in financing our middle village, so thank you. We have had incredible neighborhood cleanups. I think everybody is seeing that we're coming out of the winter and they're ready to help, and our neighborhood department's been providing resources. So we had cleanups over at the west side. We had cleanups at Forest View. Thank you, Councilman Garza, for, I know we had an issue and you helped out. Art Path, they did a big cleanup on the Art Path before the art goes up. The Walnut neighborhood did the dam over in Old Town. And on South Pennsylvania by the zoo, there was a cleanup done. So thank you, everybody, for getting out and helping to clean our city and show off the pride of Lansing. Thank you to Lansing 501, who had an incredible festival downtown. Great music, wonderful food, and a lot of vendors and a lot of people right down in front of the Capitol. It was awesome. We had a very successful rock concert at Adado with no issues, which was nice. We had another successful mobile food pantry, so thank you to everybody that helped out and everyone that was able to get food there. We gave away a lot of bike helmets at Lids for Kids at the fire station on Marshall. Thank you to Sinus Dramus for sponsoring that, and they gave away some bikes also. Congratulations to all of our officers who won awards at the LPD Annual Awards ceremony. I want to congratulate Sharon Frischman, who is our former city assessor who is retired, so thank you for all your service. I want to thank John Smoltz, former MLB pitcher from the Atlanta Braves, who grew up here in Lansing, went to Waverly, and he has been back here helping out with Strikeout Baseball, which is going to be opening up in Ferris Park, which is really exciting for our kids, another thing to do. I had on my list, although the council president beat me to it, I want to thank Councilman Garza, although I want to thank Jeremy Garza of Local 333 for all you did at the North Cemetery and with the North Cemetery Arch. I went down there and I saw it, and the craftsmanship was incredible. We're going to be doing a ribbon cutting, but thank you to Local 333, the plumbers and pipe fitters. Really just incredible jumping in and being part of our city, especially on the south side where they're located. So it's greatly appreciated, you and your members. We've got a few things coming up. Potter Park Zoo is going to be opening their animal health care facility. We're having a groundbreaking on Wednesday. On Thursday, I want to congratulate Lynn Mead on her retirement, the Teamsters 243 president for many years. And finally, I know it was mentioned by Loretta Stanaway. Saturday, we actually have several Memorial Day events. I specifically want to point out our firefighters memorial at 11 a.m. at Mount Hope. We have had firefighters killed during duty, and we've got a memorial at Mount Hope Cemetery. And then our city event, which will be at Little Arlington. This is the first year, I assume in a long time, but since I've been mayor, that Alfreda Schmidt will not be there. And that's sad. It's one more way to remember, but we do want to remember everybody that served, whether our first responders or our military. So all are welcome Memorial Day Saturday at noon to thank all of those who have served for us. That's what I've got, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we are to public comment on legislative matters. There are no public hearings that are part of that, so it is items 3 through 18 on the agenda. And our first speaker is Mike Lynn, followed by Nicholas Zandy.
Thank you. I just wanted to elaborate on Peter Spatafor's. And I think for one thing I'd like to say is that it's easier if you say it came from my conversation. And why I say that is I hear a lot of things that I know have grown out of my conversation up here or outside of here, and you all kind of beat around by people in the community. This is one that I think it matters when you say Mike Lynn. I've been involved with this gun violence prevention since anybody up here has been concerned about it. I think that me giving the information to Peter Spatafor from Richmond, California, where I've been and actually witnessed this work in the Office of Neighborhood Safety matters. I think that you guys have had probably at least a week to know that this resolution was coming, and I think that goes to the fact that if you're not ready to ask the right questions of the right people, then maybe this isn't for the city to have inside its government. The question that Brian T. Jackson brought up, I mean, I just seen you this weekend. You could have said, hey, Mike, I know you had brought this to our attention, and now it's on here as a resolution. I got to figure out, what does this mean? If I bring something to you, it's a part of a bigger scope. It's definitely a part of an ecosystem. I was very surprised that Peter brought this and wanted to do it. As he called me as I left Hill. When I brought this conversation there, he contacted me as soon as I left there and wanted to know more about it. I ran into the mayor this weekend. He was interested and was very interested in how this is going to look and was very happy about it, right? And so I'm thinking, from my perspective, this is all I've been asking y'all for. A line item, and somebody's job it is to make sure the funds are going to the right places. And then to hear council members not ask me why I brought this or why it came was just concerning. Like, if we're not ready to ask those questions to the right people, I sat and talked to Adam for an hour after a neighborhood meeting and expressed to him why this was important, why it's important across the country. And everybody who's doing this work that I do, CVI work, is begging communities and municipalities to do this. This is not novel, right? This has been going on. The state feds have already brought this on. It's very important to have a liaison to me in the community with Lansing 360 that's understanding of the work that I do. So when we have conversation about resourcing shooters, everybody's top doesn't blow. When we have conversation about sending shooters to pairs together, ones that tried to kill each other, everybody's top doesn't blow because the people on the inside don't necessarily always understand. So we do need to have somebody in the city who gets it, who knows where the resources are for housing, poverty, all the things that you name, Brian. We need somebody inside who knows where all those resources are that's intentionally focused on gun violence prevention that I can talk to directly and say, hey man, this is what I need. Ulysses in his housing stuff, he wrote me about what we're doing because he came to the last meeting Wednesday and was like, man, this is so amazing. So think about somebody with that type of focus and attention about housing for gun violence that works inside y'all office. That's what it's about. So if there's any questions, please contact me because I know. You don't have to guess, you don't have to wonder, right? An advanced piece is not the only piece of this puzzle or pie. Stop saying it, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Nicholas Zandy, followed by Erica Lynn.
Thank you. So again, Nicholas Zandy from the 2nd Ward. And yeah, this neighborhood safety thing through the budget, it's honestly been kind of a long time coming, honestly. And especially since just recently there was a shootout going on Barnes, which is actually a street not too far from the vicinity of the old Everett neighborhood. I think it's around like the Morris Park neighborhood, last I checked, as well as Fabulous Acres. So that is especially scary knowing that I live not too far from that. Any closer and that it would actually be within the boundaries of my neighborhood. So stuff like that kind of needs to be addressed for years, especially since someone died while canvassing in the West Side. And also, what was I going to say? Also, as a new neighborhood leader, like, our neighborhoods need to be protected as much as possible because these shootouts just have been happening a lot, just at the snap of fingers, and it's just been getting really scary and to the point where people have been desensitized to this. This should not be normal. Like, even as someone who doesn't trust the police that much, stuff like this shouldn't be normal, and I'm glad they're utilizing the neighborhoods department to address neighborhood safety because I believe it's the department that's best equipped for it, and I've been saying in a long time that the neighborhoods department needs extra funding because, and especially since now I've got a neighborhood association getting started through their help, so it should also be raised to accommodate that as well. So, again, I think, again, neighborhood safety needs to be addressed with all those shootings going on within neighborhoods, and especially since there were times where my property was breached by some crazy people knocking on my back door, which is attached to my bedroom, by the way, just the way my house is designed, since it's not a very big one, so just need to add on that. It is just crazy amount of the crazy stuff that has been going on in this neighborhood, and this needs to stop, and I hope that any neighborhood safety add-on to the neighborhoods department will hopefully be enough to address this kind of violence and some of this property being reached. That's all I want to say, and I shall yield the last 20 seconds of my time.
Thank you. Next, we have Erica Lynn, followed by David Ellis.
Hello again, Erica Lynn. Earlier, I was able to briefly speak about the Office of Public Safety, Neighborhood Safety, and I talked a lot about the resource allocations, strategies, better coordination, and all of those things. But really quickly, I wanted to address some of the things that I heard, and really specifically, Brian had some really good questions and issues kind of coming up for him that may be coming up for you all as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit about why we would want something a lot more dedicated than what we currently have. I think that gun violence, we all know, is a very complex issue, so it absolutely requires more than a piecemeal approach. And I would absolutely call everything we've done up to this point as a very reactive piecemeal approach, because that's just the world that we've been existing in. I've worked in tandem with HR for a number of years, and when hiring, we always would joke about this bullet point that we would always include on people's position descriptions: other duties as assigned, right? And it's like a long-standing joke that you always want to include that on a position description. And so we cannot afford to have gun violence prevention, community violence intervention be a situation where it's other duties as assigned. And that's essentially what it would be, and it is currently for any other department, any other office, any other director. So I think, again, the dedicated approach, we have to think about the toll that it takes on our community. We often, with the village, we hear it, we see it, we feel it. We're talking with victims, we're talking with their families. It's very profound, and the ripple effect that it has on a community is permanent. That should be enough to be as effective as we can, but often what I hear, and again today, the conversation of the day is money, it's budget. So we can talk about the economic tolls and costs. We understand that gun violence is extremely expensive. It's expensive on a state level, a federal level, it's expensive on the city level. If you visit everytownresearch.org, it's a site that I visit often, you can actually see the economic toll that it has on a community, and you can dial it down interactively to Michigan by the type of shooting, by the number of victims, non-fatal, fatal. If we think about the type of money that we are already spending when it comes to the gun violence that we're already experiencing. Last year in Lansing, we had 11 fatal shootings, 92 non-fatal shootings. We also had 342 shooting incidents. That's where it's verified that shots were fired, and then 1,080 shots fired calls. So over 1,400 times where someone could have gotten shot. So as a city, as a community, what is that costing us already? So I think the investment that we would put into an office that is dedicated to making sure that that impact is lessening is invaluable. The other point that I wanted to make is that the person leading the office is just as important, if not the most important part of this. That means it is a person that has the experience, the capabilities, the leadership to lead community violence intervention efforts. They're looking at the latest data, they're looking at the latest research, they're able to advocate for policy related to it, funding. It's very important that you have dedicated resources. Again, it's not other duties as assigned.
Thank you. Our final speaker is David Ellis. I do also want to acknowledge that we received a written communication from Mitch Rice supporting item 18, the payday lending.
Hi, David Ellis. I just wanted to briefly comment on item number 5 in support of it. If I am reading it and understanding it correctly, it is giving the Public Service Department a little bit more wiggle room with how they can directly work with MDOT on maintaining MDOT-controlled roads through the city, which to me, this just seems like a simple thing for us to support and pass. So thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we are to the consent agenda.
Vice President Hussein.
Sure. So we already took care of number 3, so that leaves us a balance of number 4, tribute and recognition of Kim Milton Mackey upon her retirement from Ingham County. Number 5, authorizing the Public Service Director to apply for state highway right-of-way on behalf of the city. Number 6, polling places, relocation of multiple precincts. Number 7, nonprofit recognition, KPS Special Olympics Golf Classic. Number 8, liquor license transfer, Darlington and Bartram request for transfer of 5,000 shares in conjunction with Class C. This specifically designated merchant licenses and Sunday sales, outdoor service area and dance permits, and this is for 1210 South Washington Avenue. Number 9, special assessment, Glenmore Commons, trash and grass abatement. Number 10, joint appointment for Becky Pena as the Communications Media member of the Ingham County City of Lansing Community Corrections Advisory Board for a term to expire September 17th, 2025. Workers' compensation settlement claim number WC 2062876-01399. Grant acceptance, Federal Highway Administration Electric Vehicle Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Grant. And lastly, number 13, grant acceptance, Department of Environmental Great Lakes and Energy Michigan Corp. Volunteer Stream Cleanup Program Grant. And with that, I would move the consent agenda.
Okay, we have a proper motion in place. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns from council? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes.
Okay, resolutions for action. We have the budget.
Vice President Hussein.
Sure, and so you do have two items before you. You have the budget policies document that will be passed in tandem with, and then you have the budget. We did have 3 amendments during the committee of the whole process that were approved. The first is taking additional money expected from the fee changes approved earlier and appropriating those dollars to support a new code compliance district and officer. We also have dollars that we are expecting from public safety revenue sharing, legislative piece, or fund balance, if that doesn't come to fruition, to support for exploration of or readying for essentially an office of neighbor safety. That would be housing the departments of neighbor citizen engagement, and then additional dollars, $375,000 from fund balance to district court to support additional staffing in the eviction diversion program. So that we can converse on this, I would move the resolution.
Okay, we have a proper motion in place. Do we have any additional comments, questions from council? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Councilman Cost.
Thank you, President Garza. So I will explain all 3 of these. We're going to do them separately, but I want to give an explanation of the rationale behind what we're doing. So we have had these 3 properties come before us over and over again. EDP has recommended tabling them. We have continued to table these properties, and these owners have started to make progress on these. So we asked OCA what our options were here. And what they suggested to us was to vote it out, to vote the resolution out of committee, but then during report to council, which I'm doing right now, make the formal recommendation, which I will, that the order of make safe or demolish be rejected. Call the question and vote no, essentially. And this option would be the recommendation of OCA. We are, for example, I will start with number 15, 1115 Regent, that's owned by Casey Howard. And that was a make safe or demolish by 2/24/24. EDP's direction on this was to continue to table it. And at this point, if they're not going, they don't want us to move through the process, and this gentleman is going to fix up the house, the best option that we came up with was to pass it out of committee and then ask for a formal no vote for city council on this. We met the owner last week. He did come. He actually owns a inspection company, home inspection company. He plans to fix it and live in it. And at the recommendation of EDP, we, like I said, voted it out, and I would move the motion and request a rejection of the motion.
Councilman Spatafor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Councilmember Cost. I just wanted to point out one thing, too, that may be going through some folks' head that came up in committee, that this does not start the entire process over, just the demolition piece of it over. So they still have to maintain all of the inspections, and all of the permits have to continue being pulled, and all of the work continues have to show progress, but it does not reset the 180-day clock. So that's, I think, one of the reasons we're comfortable with that.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Spatafor. That was something I missed. And in all 3 of these properties, the one specifically in front of us, they have all been charged a $2,000 demo fee already. So they've been fined heavily, or a fee heavily. So if they were to not continue on that process, I believe that they would get reassessed that and would go back through the demo process. So I would, I strongly believe that that is not going to be the course with these 3 properties.
All right, thank you, Councilman Cost. We have Councilman Brown. Did you have your hand up too? All right, Vice President Hussein, Councilman Brown, then Councilwoman Pellavano.
Yeah, so I actually watched that committee meeting back, and I just want to say thank you to the committee. I thought you guys did a great job. I also appreciated I've been to demo board meetings, but I haven't necessarily been an informed observer, so it was really cool to actually see the demo board, or a couple at least of our hearing officers actually in that meeting, talking about their process, talking about how they consider things and look at things, weigh things. I will say, however, that sometimes that process is painfully slow. And so although we're not starting the entire process back over, that doesn't necessarily mean that should it be something that would be appropriate in terms of moving through that process, that it's going to be an expedited process. I'm assuming, because I don't want to ever do anything that seems arbitrary, I would assume that they base their decision on everything we always ask, that there's financial wherewithal, there's a timeline that's acceptable, permits are actively being pulled, inspections being scheduled. I mean, again, because we want to make sure that we're applying our process with fidelity. So
Correct, yes. They did indicate on the 1115, it is not listed on the sheet, but there are additional permits that have been pulled since the print of this sheet. So the progress is being made on this property.
All right, thank you. Councilman Brown.
Thank you, and thank you for the work that you all have done. My sentiments are the same, and I know I've been working with the group on 1519 Linville too, so I know that they're really actively working on rehabbing the property as well. So I think these are a good group of properties to give that opportunity. Thank you so much.
Councilwoman Pelavanoglu.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I just think it's important to point out that for those, members of the audience and folks throughout the city who don't necessarily go back and watch those meetings, what we have been dealing with is just exhaustive list of, properties coming before us, and I'm rather new to this council and this committee, and so in my discussions with council members Cost and Spatafor, it's like how do we work together to not only get the list down, but it was expressed to us in our meetings that the whole point is to keep people in their homes. And if they're not living in those homes, they're working to fix them up. These are viable properties. And so we should be giving them the tools that they need to take the time and fix these properties up as much as we can. And so I know when Councilman Cost brought this forward, it did sound a bit confusing and counterintuitive, but I do think that it is the best course of action to go. Add to the fact that when these meetings come up, we do call the property's owner to come in or give them the opportunity to come in and speak on their own behalf. And when you're doing that every 2 weeks or every 30 days and you're taking time off of work or, navigating downtown, coming into City Hall, that can become cumbersome. So I do agree with Councilmember Cost that this is the best way to go in this situation. And please know that these, as Councilmember Hussein, Vice President Hussein, alluded to earlier, these are taken on a case-by-case basis, and we are taking the recommendations from those folks who are the experts.
All right, thank you. And so, just to be clear, we are doing Make Safe or Demolish for 1115 Regent Street at this point in time, and from the recommendation of committee chairs that we vote no to send this to Make Safe or Demolish. We have a proper motion in place. All those in favor state by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. Aye. All right, motion passes. Our motion fails, sorry. Councilman Cost.
Yes. So the next property is 3301 Turner Street. That was Make Safe or Demolish June 25th of 2023. They did get a new owner last summer. It was Councilman Hussein, former council member Wood, and myself that were on public safety that had heard this property originally. I think there was some technicality or issue with the paperwork, so it came through the process again. In the meantime, we have continued to table this item, and I was wrong on this house. This was a fire-damaged house that I really didn't think was going to get anywhere. It'd been like that for 7 years, and I am pleasantly pleased to report that he actually is almost to the finish line. House looks great. So the recommendation again from public safety would be to reject this Make Safe or Demolish. I would move the resolution.
Okay, we have a proper motion in place. Do we have any additional comments from council? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please state by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign?
Aye.
Yeah. All right, motion fails. Councilman Cost.
I was just following orders. 1519 Linville Street. This is going to be the next one. This is owned by Mikey 23 Foundation. This was a fire damaged property, so it was make safe or demolish 30 days. I believe Mr. His name escapes me.
Mr.
Mike-
McKissick.
McKissick did come before City Council, or I'm sorry, Public Safety. I'm not good with the distraction. Came before Public Safety a few times. He brought us pictures. This property has not been as actively worked on as his other properties. I have concerns about the inside of it, which is far from being finished. But again, this was a recommendation that EDP believes that he has all those criterion met that we expect. So I would also put this one forward to reject.
Okay. Vice President Hussein.
So I would assume that a timeline was discussed. What are we looking at in terms of timeline?
So I believe Mr. McKissick had said by the end of summer he believed that they could be finished. Code is in agreement with him, so my personal opinion on it doesn't matter. There's a lot of work to get done, so I certainly hope that he keeps to it. They, like I said, they've already paid a hefty fee for even going through this process. And this is in one of my neighborhoods that I have the pleasure of representing. And it has been an eyesore. The outside of it does look nice, and it could be a beautiful home for some folks. And I will give him the grace that EDP believes he's going to get it done. So I'll stand with EDP's decision on this, and they're the experts.
Sure, yeah, and I appreciate Mike. I really believe in the work that he does. Just because it's been sitting like this for quite some time, I was just curious. I support the rejection.
All right. Do we have any additional comments? I would also say that I was a little concerned with this property. It was red tagged in 2015. My understanding, he purchased this in 2019, which is 5 years ago, and slowly making progress. So hopefully, I will support this as well, but hopefully we don't make this common practice to let fire damaged properties sit for so long. Councilman Cost.
And public safety is inquiring as to the demolition process. We did have the demolition board before us last week with some of our questions, and I will be attending their meetings because we do have grave concern about that happening. I think that Councilwoman Penevanoglu covered it well, that this is a case-by-case basis. With this property, I was really struggling with that original red tag date and the fact that it sat fire damage for so long. So, at the end of the day, if we get to the end of the summer and that still looks the same on the inside of that house, as Raleigh knows, I will be emailing him every day about that house because, this is on their judgment. So I trust their word at this point that this is, going to happen in the timeline.
All right, thank you. Any additional comments from council? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Okay, hold on. Let me just go back. These are the same, so recommendation from the body. Okay, same way. So all those in favor to approve the demolition process, but we're being told that we should not approve the demolition process. So all those in favor, please state by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion fails.
Okay, we are to item 18, support of Senate Bill 632.
Vice President Hussein.
Sorry, folks, on the last one. That's muscle memory for you. I'm not going to go through, obviously everything we discussed in committee of the whole. I just want to once again thank Senator Anthony for being courageous enough to bring this bill for the Senate. And frankly, it had strong bipartisan support. So back in February, it did pass the Senate. It's been sitting in the House. And frankly, we need, I think, more legislation like this. I think, too often are comfortable in positioning people in areas that can be deemed at risk, concentrating poverty, doing those types of things. But what we don't think about are the unintended consequences, such as the disproportionate positioning of predatory actors in a number of different areas in these particular areas and really trapping these folks intergenerationally in these areas. And so I think this, along with a number of other things that we've been working on, that they've been working on, that things that we could be advocating for and should be advocating for, I think we might see some move of the dial. So in any event, I would move the resolution of support for Michigan Senate Bill 632 of 2023 concerning payday loans. And again, essentially what this would do is it would be to cap the interest at 36% as opposed to some 370%, which is realized today. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Vice President Hussein. We have a proper motion in place. Do we have any additional comments? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes.
Okay, we are to speaker registration for public comment on city government related matters. If you wish to address the city council for up to 3 minutes, please get up and get with Tyron in the next minute or so. And in the meantime, we are to reports of city officers, boards, and commissions.
Vice President Hussein.
I move that all items be considered as read in full and that the appropriate referrals be made by you, President Garza.
Okay, we have a proper motion in place. Do we have any additional comments? All right, seeing none. All those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes.
Okay, from the city clerk, minutes of boards and commissions.
Place on file.
From the mayor, readopting the codified ordinances, 2 items.
Committee of the Whole.
And special assessments, snow and ice, 23-24, 2 items.
City Operations.
The appointment of Tim Damon to the Michigan Avenue Corridor Improvement Authority Board of Directors.
Development and Planning.
Annual training requirement for all boards and commissions.
Committee of the Whole.
Memorandum of Agreement, Greater Lansing Regional Committee for Stormwater Management Membership.
Committee of the Whole.
Grant Acceptance Burn State Crisis Intervention Program grant.
Ways and Means and Internal Auditor.
And 2 items regarding the repealing and replacing the existing sign ordinance in its entirety.
Development and Planning.
And from Vice President Hussein, the support of Senate Bill 632 that was already passed.
Committee of the Whole and placed on file.
We are to remarks by council members.
Do we have any additional remarks by council? Councilman Spatafor, then Councilman Vice President Hussein.
I don't want to make the meeting last any longer than necessary, but I do want to say a few thank yous. We blew through the budget so quickly. The budget team for all their work on putting this together and helping with many of the amendments, our interim internal auditor for all his assistance, department heads for coming here and helping us better understand what was in front of us, the mayor for putting a budget together and working with so many of us and getting these amendments across the finish line, and of course our office manager, Sherry Boak, who was even in between meetings making tweaks to the amendments and printing them out for us. So thank you to all those folks.
Thank you, Councilman Spatafor. Vice President Hussein.
Yeah, I agree completely. A couple things that I meant to say earlier and I just simply didn't. Mayor Shore, one of the things that was really impressed upon me, first of all, fantastic job, right, by the administration, the respective departments, absolutely, our office staff, the list goes on. But one of the things that was incredibly compelling to me was the testimony that we received from our fire chief. And the reality is at this point, in terms of the numbers of calls we're receiving, and in terms of what we're asking our frontline workers to do, it's not tenable, right? We know that. And so I'm really requesting, and I don't know that, maybe it's, revenues are higher than expected and we're looking at a budget amendment down the line. Maybe it's we take a very serious look, come budget priority time. And then maybe it's, unfortunately it has to be moved to next year, but I think we have to put a plan in place and support additional capacity within the fire department. I think it is absolutely critical. I think to that end, and one of the things that I think was probably frustrating to Councilman Brown, I think we also need to truly, we've had the idea that we're going to have we have this chief strategy officer. They're going to look at efficiencies and redundancies and all these things. And frankly, the output has been minimal, in my opinion. I really want to see next year a really, really close look at, as an example, our temporary line items. I know, and not to pick on them, but this is just an example. HRCS, was budgeted last year for temporary help at $75,000. They came in at almost $150,000. This year, without any budget notes, they asked for $180,000. And because there were no budget notes, we decided to approve it at $100,000. It was incredibly difficult, frankly, to get information about how that line item is being used, and that's just a microcosm. And so I think we really have to think about, okay, these are the absolute critical positions, right, that absolutely need to be funded. And I think that goes back to Ms. Stanaway's comments, frankly, over the last maybe couple months now. And I think we need to make sure that we are taking care of the absolute critical needs of the city before we're funding some of these other things. And we've had some conversations, and we continue to have some conversations. The other thing is House Bill 4012 did pass, as you know. And I'm hoping that the administration is putting a plan together to take a look at that and hopefully leverage that so that we can get some control over our major corridors and the speeds at which people are, first of all, allowed to travel at, and then human nature almost encouraged to travel at. And I think we know what that means. So I'm hoping that we can hear something down the line about that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Vice President Hussein. Any additional comments from council? All right, I too want to echo Councilman Spatafor and Councilman Hussein's comments there. I think it's very, very important that we do make sure that we take a deepest dive possible to support our public service and public safety. I think you guys did an excellent job this year. I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm proud of my colleagues. Smooth transition, a lot of good questions asked, and we passed a balanced budget. I also wanted to mention, I mentioned earlier the Spring Up to Clean Up from the South Lansing Business Association. It's this Wednesday from 3 to 5. We will be in our Committee of Development and Planning, so I'm not able to attend, but I would encourage all, if you are interested in going and helping clean up South Lansing, they are meeting between Target and Menards at the, what is the church? St. Paul's Episcopal Church, and that's from 3 to 5 this Wednesday. Thank you.
Remarks by the mayor.
I didn't get a chance to say it either, so I'm going to thank Jake Brower, our finance team, our department directors. They all take this very seriously. They all want to be prepared and be here and answer the questions that you all have, and I think they've all done a great job. I think you all did a great job asking very good questions, and I think we put together a really good budget. Certainly, I would love to see more for our public safety. I'm spending a lot of time trying to get the legislature to pass the money so we can have 15 more cops and fill all of them. And I would love to see more firefighters, there's no doubt. What I really am excited about is the fact that, that we'll be able to get more paramedics. With the contract that we signed and you guys recently approved, we are going to make sure that we have paramedics, because without having medics, we would really risk not having ambulances on the street. So I'm excited about this budget. I think that we really have a very good budget for the next year that reflects all of our priorities for this city, and there's a lot of good work to be done. So thank you to everybody who had a part in this, on this dais and in this administration. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, then we are to public comment on city government-related matters. We have Joanne Bowman, followed by Amanda Thomashaw. You have up to 3 minutes to address city council.
Good evening. Can you hear me? My name is Dr. Joanne Bauman. That's non-medical. I live at 824 West Ionia and Butler. Both roads are terrible and dangerous. I'm a current federal employee, a former federal congressional staffer, and I'm an Army veteran chief warrant officer. But I come to you as a concerned citizen of Lansing. You can see that I love the government, but what I really love about the government is when the government uses common sense. So I'm here respectfully asking you for you to review what you're doing on MLK. MLK is beautiful. I hear you might want a bike path. The bike club comes past my house. 1 block east of MLK, you can drive or ride your bike all the way from St. Joe to Saginaw. It's probably not even safe to have a bike path over there. but I really can't understand how you can tear down houses, build a beautiful boulevard that doesn't have potholes, waste the money to tear that down and rebuild without any common sense or reason. I think, it's my personal and very strong opinion, that this city has so many problems. We are low on the police department. Honorable Mayor understands we need more first responders, that we take whatever money we can that we would put in there and invest in our town, our people, our homeless, people that are barely getting by in this bad economy, and I'll leave it the rest to other people to add other issues. Thank you for the chance to speak in front of you today.
Thank you.
City TV, could you check our live stream, please? It's definitely not me on TV. Is City TV, are you back there? We are not on live. All right,
There we
thank
go.
you.
Okay, let's have Amanda Tomashaw followed by Deborah Mulcahy.
Hi. First, I'd just like to say I really appreciate the pause on the MLK roadway rework, but I have to wonder, what does that pause actually mean? I don't want to rehash old wounds or anything, but I am still pretty disappointed that the neighborhoods were not to rehash old ruins, but I'm still pretty disappointed that the neighborhoods that would be directly impacted by the rework were left out of the conversation completely. I know our opinion is not required, but receiving a postcard asking for my opinion days after the return date was insulting at best. I'm a homeowner in the West Side neighborhood, and the current construction has increased traffic to my house at a scary rate. I worry that more access to my neighborhood will only increase that traffic and decrease my and the neighborhood's safety. I'm also concerned about how many trees and green space would be destroyed by the planned and now paused rework. I think it's really important that we move towards living alongside nature, not against it. We need the trees, we need the green space, our earth needs it, the birds and the squirrels and the air quality need it. I don't understand why we would get rid of it. I read the postcard. I know the medians will be removed to make roadways better or whatever, but I don't think this is the answer. And the idea of making a bike trail on one side of MLK, the side that nobody lives on, seems counterproductive and possibly even more dangerous, as there would be no way for bikers to get from that to the neighborhoods. I can't help but wonder if the owners of the unused land who would benefit from the rework are in some way connected to this plan, because they are seemingly the only people that would benefit from it financially. Homeowners, neighbors, the people that will be directly affected will lose green space, property value, safety. So who is this really for? I think personally, if I were in charge, I'd have a community conversation with stakeholders and anybody that wants to be involved in this conversation, and together we would decide how we move forward. So again, thank you so much for the pause. I really appreciate that, but I hope that before moving forward with the plan, we can have a community conversation about this and figure out a way to make it the MLK of all of our dreams, not just some of our dreams. So thanks, that's all.
Thank you. Next, we have Deborah Mulcahy, followed by Heidi Fry.
Good evening, Deborah Mulcahy. I live on the west side. I'm grateful that we have a pause on the MLK project. What I'd like to know from the mayor is, based on his press release, a pause. What does that mean? Communication's been sent to the mayor. No response has been provided to persons who wrote that communication asking, what does the pause mean? I, like Amanda, would and have spoke here in communications calls to the mayor's office, asked for just what she's saying, a community dialogue. I think that that's the way to go forward before somebody decides we're going to do a traffic count on MLK after the city is done with the CSO project from Saginaw to Ionia. And while that concept has merit and it sounds good, the reality is once the city is done with that part of the CSO project, they're going immediately adjacent to MLK, from MLK east, west to Jenison, north at Saginaw, and down to Shiawassee. That will continue to change the traffic counts. Again, I'm not for removing the medians. That's been clear all along. But I am supportive of a road diet if the traffic data supports it. I don't want people 20 years from now having to deal with this going back from a 4-lane to a 6-lane road. Separate issue, other than MLK. The city needs to deal with their FOIA process. It stinks. The way it's handled is incredulously ridiculous. And I can tell you right now, I have 4 different FOIAs that are pending. Actually, more than that, but 4 that I feel confident that I could walk into a circuit court and I would prevail. I don't want to do that with the city. I don't want to spend my time with the city. The city attorney's office needs to be dealing with FOIA requests and responses properly. The other issue I ask is, I had sent a letter to council, to Ms. Carter specifically, and all you individuals as council members, and I asked that that be put in the agenda packet material. I wasn't able to find it anywhere. So maybe somebody could tell me where I was supposed to send that to make sure it got into the agenda packet material, but I didn't see it. So I sent it a week ago. It's enough time to be in here, so folks, where to go? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Heidi Fry, followed by Mike Lynn.
Thank you. I, like others, want to thank the mayor for putting the MLK reconfiguration project on hold. I understand that a majority of postcards and comments that were received were not in favor of removing medians and trees and green space and reconfiguring the road to concentrate all of the traffic next to the West Side neighborhood. But most importantly, the data is not there to support the work. It's not there to support the increased traffic in the neighborhood, and it's not there to support the use of city funds on a project with vague objectives. One of those objectives that was provided was to increase accessibility in the neighborhood. No studies were done that would determine what impacts this would have on the safety of our streets, on our property values, and how this would result in increased noise and traffic in our neighborhood. Should that happen, the neighborhood would then be responsible for going through a process for traffic calming and so on, putting the burden on fixing the wrong that was done to the neighborhood on our neighbors. Importantly, I want to link this to a topic that should be on everybody's minds. Erica and Mike Lynn and Nick Zandy spoke to this earlier today, and that's about gun violence and crime in general in the city. I would encourage the city to look at all the factors that contribute to and enable crime and allow folks to commit crime and to move quickly through our neighborhoods. Not too long ago, a 14-year-old was murdered about a block and a half away from my home. The person who did that sped right by my house quickly and then through the neighborhood, and hopefully this will be resolved. But what I would encourage the city to do is to look at all of the factors that contribute to gun violence. And this includes green space, this includes increased traffic, this includes accessibility to our neighborhoods. These are all linked things. When we build better habitats for people, we get better community out of that. And when we engage the community in that, when we engage the West Side neighborhood, we get better outcomes from that. The neighborhoods were not involved in this process. The people who live there and that would be impacted by the increased traffic, by the removal of the trees in the part of the city that has the least tree cover of the entire city, were not consulted on this project. So I'd ask you to reconsider that with this pause, to take a look at the research that shows that trees reduce gun violence, that green space reduces gun violence, that traffic can have an impact on our neighborhoods, that reconfiguration projects like this, while they might seem like a good idea, actually have impacts on our neighborhood that are more than just adding a bike path. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mike Lynn and then Nick Zandy.
How refreshing it is to hear people from all walks of life talking gun violence. I can remember when I was the only one up here in tears sometimes, hoping that people would speak on it. But I really wanted to talk about this trip to Omaha, and I'm going to bring it here out in public because I think it's concerning that we have the mayor who had came into a 360 meeting and acknowledged that he wanted to send folks out from his office and the city administration. First of all, let me just recognize the fact that me and the mayor have spoken. Let me recognize that I invited him to this meeting and he came. Let me recognize that he has agreed to use funding to send folks out there. We have, I believe, 4 people from the city departments that are going out to Omaha with me. This is my trip. It's nobody else's. You can register, but I can say whether or not I want you there or not. So let's just recognize that fact that we're talking about unity and everybody talks about coming together for gun violence. And if me and this person can come together over this situation, and we have a situation where we have 2 council members that want to go out here to Omaha who have made statements that they want to go. The mayor has stated he would pay for it. This is what I heard. Now, whether or not that money has to come out of pocket first and be reimbursed, however it is, I need council out there. I need them out there. We need all aspects out here to see this process. When I say that I went out to Richmond and I seen what the Office of Neighborhood Safety looks like, I could never tell you how impactful that'll be without me putting eyes on it. I could never tell you how the north side of Omaha was able to pull from what Baker Street is or was in the 90s to what now Old Town looks like today if I hadn't put eyes on what it looks like for that vision to be implemented, or frozen into my mind to come back and tell you all what I need to make it happen here. You got to see it to know and understand it. We always talk about vision and Lansing's vision and Vision 2030 and all these things. Well, go see what a city like Lansing can look like if we put the right funding and the right resources towards the right things. And that's why I wanted council members to come out there, because you all are in charge of the budget as well as he is. So it's concerning. And I know that it got the leadership. I'm just going to name it. And I think you all need to figure this out, because those 2 council members and any other council that wants to go that he's willing to pay for need to be there. If you have the time and ability to be there, I want you there. If you need a list of names of people who are already going, this is going to be, I always talk about battle buddies when we're doing wrong, but we're battle buddies doing something good out here this time. We're going to be out here, and Lansing is a major portion of this. There's only 7 cities in the whole country that are doing this nationally recognized process or program to cure gun violence in the city. And we're one of those. So we want our city out there, representative of that. I went out there last year. Kansas City had half their council there, as well as the mayor's office. We have the mayor's office going. The mayor's sending people with me, Mike Lynn, and he's asking to pay for some of y'all to go. Let's figure it out, whatever we have to do to figure that out. Outside of that, that alone deserves a round of applause.
Thank you. Next is Nick Zandy, followed by David Ellis.
Well, you know the drill. I'm Nicholas Zandy, interim head of the Old Everett Neighborhood Association. It's honestly, I want to speak about neighborhood issues. First, I want to get the MLK Boulevard thing out of the way. What's really the deal with removing that thing? It's just going to make things worse for foot traffic, as it makes it increase likelihood that someone could get run over by a car. Do people really want that to happen? I surely wouldn't. But speaking of roads, I want to speak about roads in my neighborhood, and most of them that I've been through, terrible. They are terrible condition. In fact, many people there have even stated just how awful the condition was. It is, and still is. It is awful. It has not been repaired or prioritized. And apparently that's a north-south side, some sort of bias, which is a terrible thing, which you all know how I feel about that as a regular attendee of RSL meetings, and technically the head of the heart of the South Side. And on top of that, I want to speak directly about the whole CATA moving their facilities from the Old Everett neighborhood. Why? All that, what is the incentive to do that? That is a horrible idea to move the bus garage from the southeast of the old Everett neighborhood over to wherever the new city hall is. That's just a terrible thing. Like, why would you need to do that? For one, that would probably eat up parking space. Two, within our neighborhood, we've been bleeding businesses quite a lot. One of which was actually where we originally hosted our neighborhood meetings, at the McLaren Education Center. Now, since that's gone, we haven't had a place to meet, and so I've had to look elsewhere. And the fact we've also lost a restaurant in the middle of our neighborhood. That was a horrible thing that happened to it. And also, the whole thing with Cadam moving away. Why? That's just gonna make things worse and leave an empty building there. Who's gonna buy that? Like, what business is gonna buy that, either within our city or outside our city? You're just leaving an empty building at the edge of our neighborhood. That's just awful. And what do we even have to gain from that anyways? I don't know if we'll be using it as a neighborhood meeting location or something. I don't know. Heck, we've got the whole Neogen lab that prevents us from hosting a neighborhood meeting there because it's fenced in. So, yeah.
Thank you. Next, we have David Ellis, followed by Jacob Russell.
Hi, David Ellis, downtown Lansing resident. I'm sorry if this gets a little rambly. If this is more meant to be sort of an open letter, jump boarding off of what I had said at a previous meeting about us pushing for the state of Michigan to give us back some of the land they took back in the 80s for surface parking lots. The downtown area, when you look into its history, used to be absolutely the epicenter of Lansing. And the downtowns of every city used to be the economic powerhouses of those cities. For the majority of American history, the United States was a country that was looked at like with awe from other countries because of how our cities were planned. Just to give a little bit of a taste of what I'm saying when I'm talking about this, we look at things like tax revenue and stuff with our budget that's just going through. Downtown areas have always been where the money is generated in a city. The reasons I'm so passionate about the downtown neighborhood is it is the nexus where people live, people thrive, and where things happen. Using it just purely as an example, I compared the Metro Place apartments. I'm not sponsored by them. I'm not here to say that they're a good apartment building, but just use them as an example. They have on 2.2 acres of land, 145 residential units, and a taxable value of $2.77 million for average land use in the city of Lansing. If a building does not have a taxable value of per acre of at least $310,000, it does not support itself. It does not pay enough in taxes for it to be receiving the services that it needs to exist. So this one apartment building, I'm using it as an example, pays 894% of the tax money that it receives back from the city in the form of services. I'm not saying this is a slight against our neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods are wonderful, and I am absolutely not for a second pushing for us to start bulldozing or do anything to negate them. I'm just simply asking that we start looking more towards our downtown area, which has been shown time and time again to be the moneymaker of the city. If we want to lower residential taxes for people, their property taxes, we can do that by either cutting services, which none of us want to do. No one wants to cut services. Or we can increase our revenue either from increasing taxes or from increasing our tax base. This is an enormous portion of the city that Lansing is in the unique position of having more than half of our immediate downtown area generating zero tax dollars. So I'd ask you all to continue to look towards us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jacob Russell, and then Joe Salazar.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I'm Jacob Russell, and I'm running for District 6 in County Commissioner. The parents of young children today understand that finding care within reasonable cost is no small feat. The average child care costing more than $300 a week per child. A price tag that used to be reserved for the best centers. There are not enough options and availability for our city to take care of their young children. Based on rough estimation, there are approximately 7,000 children under the age of 5 in Lansing. Also, on similar rough estimation, with 100 kids per daycare center, not including home-based, there are 7,000 spaces for children under the age of 5 in the entire Lansing area, including Okemos, Holt, and Delhi Township. I think you can see the problem. The math doesn't math. You are all smart and capable individuals. I think that you guys can find a solution to our child care problems and lower costs by investing in child care solutions for the parents and your constituents of Lansing. Seeing that I have some more time, I would like to also thank you for keeping the number of homes up by preventing the destruction of units that people are working on. And I would suggest, based on what other people have talked here today about the construction project on MLK, to look into a project called Stronger Towns. That project is a nationwide project where they call conversations in cities and states as powerhouses, and something that might be a useful tool for you to consider other alternatives and better ways of projecting, planning, and constructing your road projects. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Michael Mercer.
I wasn't able to attend the COW meeting, but I'm going to speak about it here during city council meeting. I heard this morning on TV6 News at 4:30 about the city of Lansing possibly going to put in market the Lansing Center, the Jackson Field, and the Grossbeck Golf Course. I am not in favor of that at all whatsoever. The city of Lansing has lost so many parks in the years. I remember when Venero was here, they got rid of the Waverly Hills Golf Course, the Red Cedar Golf Course, the Potters Park Zoo, which is now controlled by Ingham County, the Grand Woods Park out there in Delta Township on Willow, if you know exactly where that's at. It's on the Eden County side of Waverly, but it was a Lansing Park. The ice skating rink over there at Washington Park, I'm kind of curious still whatever happened to that. And plus that practice range over there for golf on Mount Hope, down by the Mount Hope Cemetery, alongside the Sycamore Creek. Anyhow, I'm just tired of the city of Lansing not keeping their parks up to date. They had Kriegel Park shut down for years until they got a grant to open that park back up, and now you're doing the same here at Morris Park Pool. You're just, begging for the money from the state to open up your parks, but the taxpayers' parks millage dollars they pay you guys just can't even take care of the parks. You're just squandering those parks millage dollars, to my opinion, while you got to get grants from the state of Michigan. And like people said down here in the past, if you're not going to take, care of parks, then I think, like Pollard said down here, vote no on the parks and millage. And finally, something I like to talk about, somebody happens to live over there on the south side. They're between Cedar and Pennsylvania on K North, those apartments that caught on fire. If you remember last year, it's an eyesore. He tells me every day he drives home from work, and he'd like to know when those are going to get demolished, because that is an eyesore, and I've driven by it myself many times, and the city should do something about that apartment to get taken care of and demolished. Instead of just letting it sit there, it's getting to look like, you know, what Detroit used to look like when they had Kwame down here. But now Detroit's getting much, much better down there with this mayor they have now.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. See no further business. We are adjourned.